Last night's episode of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert witnessed an unprecedented constitutional crisis when Justice Sonia Sotomayor was forcibly removed from the studio after Stephen Colbert questioned her mental fitness and suggested she was too emotionally compromised by her diabetes to serve on the Supreme Court. The senior associate justice didn't just defend herself. She delivered a masterful lesson on disability discrimination that left Colbert exposed as profoundly ignorant about both law and basic human decency. But what started as a discussion about her new book on judicial empathy would reveal something darker about how media personalities treat public servants with disabilities. The Ed Sullivan Theater carried unusual tension from the moment Justice Sotomayor arrived. The 70-year-old jurist was there to discuss her children's book about civic engagement, but Colbert's writers had prepared an entirely different agenda. A production assistant later revealed that Colbert had specifically instructed them to probe whether her health affects her judgment and find out if diabetes impacts her decisions. The warm-up comedian had been making jokes about sugar crashes in the courtroom and insulin-dependent justice. Multiple staffers expressed horror at the planned line of questioning, with one senior producer reportedly threatening to quit, saying, "This crosses every ethical line." Therefore, when the cameras rolled, Justice Sotomayor was walking into an ambush that would violate not just decency, but potentially federal law. The show opened with Colbert's typical monologue, including several pointed jokes about lifetime appointments when life expectancy is uncertain and medical conditions that cloud judgment, that seemed general but were clearly targeted. Justice Sotomayor waited backstage with her characteristic warmth, reviewing notes about youth civic engagement, completely unaware that Colbert planned to interrogate her about her medical condition. Her judicial clerk would later reveal they'd been assured the interview would focus solely on her book and judicial philosophy. When Colbert finally announced, "Please welcome Justice Sonia Sotomayor," she walked out with dignified grace, greeting the audience with genuine warmth that had made her beloved across political lines. "Justice Sotomayor, an honor to have you here," Colbert began with apparent respect. "Your new book encourages young people to engage with democracy." "Thank you, Stephen. I believe every child should understand they have a voice in our democracy," she said warmly. "Speaking of having a voice, don't you think someone with type 1 diabetes might have impaired judgment during blood sugar fluctuations?" Colbert asked abruptly. The studio went completely silent. Justice Sotomayor's warm expression shifted to one of controlled disbelief. "I beg your pardon," she said quietly. "Your diabetes. Doesn't it affect your ability to make sound judicial decisions? Should someone with a serious medical condition have a lifetime appointment?" Colbert pressed. "Are you seriously questioning my fitness to serve based on a medical condition I've managed successfully for 58 years?" she asked, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd faced down far worse. "I'm asking what millions wonder. Can someone who might have a medical emergency make decisions affecting the entire country?" Colbert continued. Therefore, the discriminatory attack was immediate and shocking. Justice Sotomayor stood slowly, her movement deliberate and powerful. "Let me educate you about something, Mr. Colbert. I've written over 400 opinions while managing diabetes. I've never missed oral arguments due to my condition. I've served with distinction for 15 years. But you see diabetes and assume incompetence. That's not journalism. That's discrimination," she said firmly. "I'm raising legitimate concerns," Colbert claimed. "You're exhibiting illegal discrimination. The Americans with Disabilities Act, which I've upheld in multiple cases, prohibits exactly what you're doing right now," she responded. "This isn't a job interview," Colbert said defensively. "No, it's worse. It's a public interrogation of a sitting Supreme Court justice about her medical condition. You're normalizing discrimination against millions of Americans with disabilities," Justice Sotomayor said. She turned to the audience, her judicial presence commanding the room. "1 in 4 Americans has a disability. Diabetes affects 37 million people. This man is suggesting we're all unfit for positions of responsibility. That's not just wrong, it's dangerous," she told them. "I'm simply asking questions," Colbert protested. "No, You're perpetuating stigma that keeps qualified people from opportunities. You're suggesting that managing a medical condition equals incompetence. You're discriminating against a protected class on national television, she replied. But then she revealed something that changed everything. Do you know how many of your colleagues have chronic conditions? Your executive producer has Crohn's disease. Your head writer has lupus. Should they be fired? By your logic, they're unfit for their jobs, she said. Colbert's face went pale. That's private information, he said. Exactly. Medical information is private. Yet you're interrogating me about mine on national television. The hypocrisy is staggering, Justice Sotomayor observed. She moved closer to his desk, her presence filling the studio. You want to know what diabetes taught me? Discipline, resilience, empathy for others facing challenges. It's made me a better justice, not a compromised one, she said. That's a nice story, but, Colbert began. It's not a story. It's my life. A life where I've achieved more while managing diabetes than you have in perfect health. What does that say about your assumptions? She interrupted. The philosophical trap was perfect. Colbert struggled to respond. But Justice Sotomayor wasn't finished with her judicial dismantling. Let's discuss fitness for positions. You've had multiple executives fired for questioning your decisions. You've created a hostile work environment, according to 3 lawsuits. You've been treated for anxiety and depression. Should we question your fitness to host this show? She asked. That's different, Colbert said weakly. How? Explain the difference between your mental health treatment and my diabetes management. Both are medical conditions. Both are controlled with treatment. Why is mine disqualifying, but yours isn't? She pressed. The audience was completely riveted, and this is where something important happens. Justice Sotomayor looked directly at the camera. To everyone watching who's been told their disability makes them less capable, less valuable, less deserving of opportunity, you're not. Your struggles don't diminish you. They strengthen you. If this resonates with you, please share this moment. Comment your own experiences of overcoming discrimination. Like this video to spread awareness that disability doesn't mean inability. Your engagement might help another person facing discrimination know they're not alone. Sometimes a simple share can change someone's entire perspective on what's possible, she said with genuine warmth. The audience erupted in supportive applause. Many stood. Several people were crying. But Colbert, desperate to salvage the situation, made things worse. I think you're being overly sensitive about legitimate health concerns, he said dismissively. And I think you're being overtly discriminatory about protected characteristics. One of us is violating federal law. Hint, it's not the Supreme Court Justice, she replied. This is my show, Colbert said, grasping for authority. And this is my life you're attacking. The difference is, your show can be canceled for discrimination. My life experience can't be erased by your prejudice, Justice Sotomayor said. She pulled out her phone. Should I call the EOC now? Or would you prefer to continue violating the ADA on camera? She asked. The threat of legal action was devastating. Colbert's producers looked panicked. The network's lawyers were probably having heart attacks. But Colbert made his fatal error. Security, escort the justice out, he said, his voice cracking. The audience exploded in outrage. Having security remove a Supreme Court justice for defending disability rights was beyond catastrophic. People stood and booed loudly. Some headed for exits in protest. You're really having security remove a Supreme Court justice for discussing disability discrimination? Please, proceed. The lawsuit will be historic, Justice Sotomayor said calmly. 2 security guards approached, but stopped, clearly unwilling to touch a Supreme Court justice. One actually saluted her. The other whispered, "My daughter has type 1. Thank you." Justice Sotomayor smiled at them warmly. Your daughter can do anything she dreams of. Don't let anyone tell her otherwise, she said. She looked back at Colbert one final time. You've just demonstrated exactly why we need stronger disability protections. You've shown millions of viewers what discrimination looks like. In a way, you've done a public service by exposing your own prejudice, she said. Get out, Colbert said, nearly whispering. I'm leaving. But first, understand this. You've just discriminated against a Supreme Court justice with a disability on national television. The legal ramifications will be severe. The social ramifications will be worse. You've ended your career tonight, and you did it by attacking someone for managing a medical condition. The irony is perfect, she said. She walked toward the exit with complete dignity, then turned back. By the way, 4 of your sponsors have CEOs with diabetes. I suspect they'll be very interested in tonight's program, she said. She left to thunderous, sustained applause. The entire audience gave her a standing ovation that lasted over a minute. People chanted, "Justice! Justice!" The show couldn't continue. Within minutes, #Sotomayor Schools Colbert was trending globally. The clip went viral across every platform. Disability rights organizations mobilized immediately. Legal experts called it the clearest case of televised discrimination they'd ever seen. But the real impact came from the diabetic community and broader disability community. Millions shared their stories of discrimination. The collective rage and solidarity were unprecedented. Colbert had attacked someone who represented millions of Americans' hopes. CBS faced immediate crisis. The network's legal department went into emergency mode. Sponsors pulled out within hours. Disability rights lawyers filed complaints with the EEOC, FCC, and Department of Justice. Colbert attempted to address it the next night, but the show never aired. CBS suspended him immediately pending investigation. The network faced potential federal lawsuits that could cost millions. Justice Sotomayor's response was brilliant and measured. She filed a formal complaint with the EEOC, not seeking damages, but demanding CBS implement comprehensive disability awareness training and donate to diabetes research. She turned personal attack into systemic change. The legal consequences were swift. The EEOC found probable cause for discrimination. The ADA violations were clear and documented. CBS faced federal investigation. Colbert faced personal liability. Meanwhile, Justice Sotomayor became an even more powerful symbol of disability rights. Her book sales exploded. Speaking requests poured in. She'd turned discrimination into advocacy. But the deeper impact was on public discourse about disability. The incident sparked national conversation about casual discrimination, medical privacy, and the capabilities of people with disabilities. Justice Sotomayor had articulated what millions felt daily. Colbert never returned to television. The legal liability was too great. His career ended not with a joke, but with a lawsuit. He became a cautionary tale about the consequences of discrimination. The incident became known as the Sotomayor Standard, the moment disability discrimination on television ended. Networks implemented strict policies. The casual mockery of medical conditions stopped. Years later, CBS would settle for an undisclosed amount, funding diabetes research and disability rights organizations. They'd also implement the most comprehensive anti-discrimination policies in television history. But that night, all anyone saw was Justice Sonia Sotomayor refusing to let her diabetes be used against her. Refusing to accept that medical conditions meant incompetence. Refusing to let discrimination go unchallenged. She'd been asked to leave, but she'd left with the entire edifice of casual discrimination crumbling behind her. The security guards who'd refused to escort her became symbols of choosing justice over orders. That moral clarity became the lasting image. Justice Sotomayor, walking out with dignity while Stephen Colbert sat behind his desk, facing the end of his career for discriminating against a disabled woman who'd achieved more than he ever would. The empty chair she left became a judicial precedent in itself, representing every person with a disability who'd been dismissed, discriminated against, or deemed unfit. It stood for the principle that disability was just another form of human diversity. And Stephen Colbert became the face of consequence. The man who'd thought he could question a Supreme Court justice's fitness based on her medical condition learned that discrimination, even from behind a desk, even disguised as concern, had real penalties. The difference was absolute. Justice Sotomayor returned to the Supreme Court to continue serving with distinction. Colbert lost everything for revealing his prejudice. One had been asked to leave a show. The other had been forced to leave an industry. Everyone watching understood that justice had been served, not by the courts, but by a woman who refused to let her diabetes define her limits. She'd been kicked off his show, but she'd kicked down decades of casual discrimination in the process. The gavel had fallen, and Stephen Colbert was guilty.